And here we go. Little cliffy cliff. Here's the sheep trail.
Daylight. Crazy. You can see what's going on outside. Finally. Finally. That was a long day yesterday. Got it done. Almost. Well, now I gotta re-insulate the sides of the glass door down below and then decide how I'm gonna do these walls. This room was originally going to be a place for people to sleep. Still probably will be, but this was my quick fix to the sound and the echo and the cold out there until I get that other area figured out later on. I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter what I do here, I get cabin fever being inside. Drives me frickin' bonkers. And my quad still isn't fixed. It's at the Yamaha dealer. Something about a starter relay and they ordered it, but it's just not here yet. It's probably there and they don't have time to do it. So, I haven't been down to the river for how long? Out back here? Months. But anyway, I'll be going in the woods here pretty quick. And get back to the normal view of things. But in the meantime, you gotta put up with this shit in here, right? Now, many voices. Who knows what's gonna be said? Let's listen up. Let me preface by stating, I am by nature a very skeptical person. I'm 57 years old and there's no title to this email. And have been in and around the woods and nature all my life. I live in Oregon on the coast. This experience changed my life and whole belief system regarding what I thought I knew. It happened in 2017 or 18, don't remember exact year now. Anyway, it begins with my wife and I, Jen, camping along a creek just outside of Lincoln City, Oregon, on the Schooner Creek / Bear Creek Road, approximately 7 miles east of town. We've been camping for 2 nights on a 4 to 5 day camping trip. We were hiking most of that third day, enjoying the scenery, creek, and surroundings. we heard several knocks that sounded like a fairly large tree branch being smacked against another tree. We generally pushed it off or would reply with a whoop or two. I again am skeptical by nature, but also open to keeping an open mind. Later, as we were sitting around our fire pit, we became a little amorous and decided to retreat to the tent for the evening. As it was just getting dark, we left our tent door open so we could see out through the screen. My wife noticed them first and grabbed my arm when we heard our first whoop whoop and asked me if I heard it too. I stated that I had. We then moved toward the front of our tent to look out and see what made these sounds, as it was very close. As it was turning twilight, we could make out at least 3 to 4 very dark humanoid figures just across the creek on the hill just above us. Ugh. I began to literally rub my eyes to make sure that what I thought I was seeing was actually there. To my shock, when I focused again, we could see them moving down through the brush toward the creek and us. This is the moment my whole world flipped upside down. I was a U.S. Army veteran with combat experience, as well as working in corrections for 28 years. I'm not easily intimidated or frightened. I have to say I have never been as scared in my life. At the time, I had a Model 94 lever action 30-30 with me. After seeing these creatures, I felt like I had a BB gun. As they moved closer, we watched in horror as we lost track of them. They were as black as the blackest hole and had these red, piercing eyes. I'll never forget those eyes as long as I live. As my wife and I are struggling to gain a sense of what the hell was happening to us, we heard movement all around our tent. I grabbed the rifle, turned back toward the door screen to see what I could see. Our fire was still glowing with embers, but mostly I could just make out what I thought was a part of a large tree that was down and actually bridged the small creek to the other side. That's when I noticed from the large root end of the downed tree about 15 feet from us, in our tent, a huge black humanoid figure peering out at us from behind this tree root area. At first it looked at us plainly with those freaky red eyes and moved very slowly. It seemed like it was morphing in and out of the tree. It then closed its eyes and just sat there. My wife was shaking like a leaf, gripping my arm tighter than hell. I admit my heart was pounding. I then got a little mad and decided I would walk to this and I would talk to this thing. I began by cocking the action on my rifle and introduced myself. If that thing had came at us, it could have its way with us and that gun wasn't going to help. But it's all I had, and I figured if we're going out, I'm letting them who we were. Typo. Anyway, I began talking calmly to this thing, and each time I would speak, it would open its eyes. I know it sounds crazy as hell, but it communicated to me through telekinesis or some other form of telecommunication. It wasn't real words, but more like suggestions. At first I felt a little more at ease, but I soon found myself feeling this overwhelming feeling of it trying to draw me out of the tent. And I felt very strongly that its intentions were nefarious. I then stated to it that we were hoping for a peaceful interaction, but I stated I will defend me and mine. It was at that point it broke away from where it was hiding. As it did, I saw it wasn't alone. There was a slightly smaller one, who evidently was behind the other larger one. They both began to move from behind the tree, and my wife and I both shut the screen as we didn't know what was about to happen. We heard them physically walking away, making guttural noises, and could hear and the others whoop across the creek. When we opened the fort/screen on the tent, we shined our lights and could see nothing. Needless to say, we did not sleep that night and left Camp Earl the next morning. We have told very few of this experience, as it was hard to believe, to say the least. Since then, we've had a few possible sightings, but nothing like that. But nothing like that night. I know a lot of people won't believe this. the other me would probably have been one of them. But as I said, this event changed my way of thinking, and I couldn't care less who believes it. I'm sharing with you because I started watching you do the hunting stuff, then noticed your Bigfoot stories. Like the way, tell them, and have respect for you. Anyway, hope I don't bore you. Thanks for listening. Frank Lupinacki. Lupinacki. I hope I didn't butcher your last name, Frank. Sorry if I did, man. That's a shit eater. That's a real shitty, terrifying encounter. And especially if you weren't fully aware of what the hell was going on out there with the creepy side of our reality to begin with, right? A little bit of a slap in the face with some nasty, shitty, and terrifying reality, right? Ooh, that's a creepy one. What a weird thing. How many people how many people feel that they're trying to lure them? Isn't that creepier and shit? I felt like I was being herded. I felt like I was being maneuvered in for an ambush. I felt like they were trying to lure us into the timber. It's a weird thing. Something I don't understand. I don't have half an answer for it. When something's that big and that ominous, and like everybody says, doesn't matter the size of the rifle, everybody says the same thing. They don't think the gun would have done anything. So what's a tent piece of nylon doing, stopping these beings from absolutely picking you up by the neck and doing whatever they want? What's stopping them? I don't get it. So either one point's not correct. The people who feel they were being attempted to be lured, or possibly hunted, or corralled, or ambushed, are possibly wrong with that feeling. So that's one thing. Or there is some kind of a spiritual thing going on where if our soul agrees to it, to going that direction or going to them, then it's game on and we're fair game. Maybe. Something of that flavor, maybe. I don't know, right? Pretty creepy, man. Glad you guys made it out okay, Frank, and I hope you guys are still going out in the woods. Although it'd be pretty tough for anybody to go in the woods after that, right? Man. And 2 more members of the Club of No Return. Didn't ask for it, but they're here and they've got a lifelong membership and there's no way out of it. It'd be easier to get rid of tattoos than it would getting out of this club. Hi, Steve. Like everyone else, we love listening to the stories. Thank you for doing what you're doing. We appreciate it. We'd like to wish you and all your followers the very best in this crazy world we now live in. Our names are Cindy and Joe. We live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, the UP. It has sections of forest and swamp, many rivers and lakes, including Lakes Michigan and Superior. We've lived in a small town for the last 15 years and can honestly say that the people of the UP are among the most friendliest in the world. During the years we lived here, we had at least 10 to 12 incidents that have happened that we have no explanation for, including paranormal activity. It keeps life interesting. We would like to share with you a paranormal deer story and a Bigfoot story. No shortage in the UP, is there? I got good friends that have a hunting cabin in the UP. They live in Howell, Michigan is their hometown. We woke up at 7 a.m. to hear several crows cawing. Cindy asked me why the crows are going crazy, and I told her that we would go and investigate after we had coffee. On a side note, crows are a good bird to have around as they eat all the roadkill. Have a dinner bell call, and if there is a predator around, such as an owl, they go crazy. So after having coffee, we get on the 4-wheelers to go investigate. It has snowed about 2 inches during the night. We found a small doe about 80 pounds laying on its side with a light dusting of snow on the body. This is where it gets strange. The first thing we notice is that there are no tracks of crows, predators, or deer tracks in the snow, and nothing has touched it. Cindy asked me, how did it die? I said, well, we'll find out right now. I pick up the deer with my thumb and pointer finger to turn it over, and what we found was that it was half of a deer. The entire side of that deer was gone. No front leg, no back leg, no guts, no ribs, no blood. It was like someone had taken a saw, cut it down the spine, as there were no jagged bone pieces. They probably only weighed 20 pounds, if that. How did the deer get there with half a body and no tracks of any kind? Impossible. It looked like it was just dropped there. Of course, our camera had recently broken, and thus we could not take any pictures. Cindy's story. That's a weird frickin'... That's weird. That is absolutely creeper and shit. Now, the next part is titled Cindy's Story. This occurred on a beautiful sunny afternoon in late October 2009. Joe was watching the Michigan football game, and I decided that I would go and work on the back door of a blind that we had built but never finished. This was in a little cleared spot in the back 40, surrounded on one side by thick tag alders and eventually swamp. I was on the ladder nailing in the door frame when I heard a loud cough behind me. I stopped, looked, but couldn't see anything due to the tag alders, and the sound was close. I noticed that it was dead quiet, no other sounds at all. Thinking this could be a coyote or a wolf that was coughing because of a fur ball stuck in his throat, I started pounding on the boards and talking to scare it away. About 10 minutes later, I hear another cough, and it's about 20 yards away but to my left. This now has my attention, and thinking that this is not good, I decided to go and work on the inside of the blind as I have some protection if needed. I was in there for about 15 minutes working on the ceiling when I needed another board. I went up to the four-wheeler, picked up a board, and from the front side of the blind, about 50 yards away, I heard the loudest, longest, most powerful roar that I've ever heard. The sound just went through my body. Whatever had made that roar was big and powerful and had huge lungs, as the roar lasted 7 to 9 seconds. The lung capacity was unbelievable. I dropped the board and said, "You win, I'm out of here." I jumped on the four-wheeler and left as fast as I could. I grew up on a farm, had 5 older brothers, had to game and enjoyed the outdoors all my life, so I'm very familiar with animal sounds, but that roar was enough to get me out of there. We still enjoy the woods. One time we had pounding on the sides of the house, and 5 months ago we had 2 whoops at 2:30 in the morning in our front orchard. We accept the fact that our property has lots of strange, unexplainable things that happen on it, but that's what keeps it interesting. Last comment for your viewers. Do you think that all the people who have told their stories are liars, or is just one person telling the truth? We know the answer. Bigfoot exists. Thanks again for listening to our stories and providing people with a place to tell their stories. There are a lot of unexplained things that happen in this world, which keeps it interesting. And people need a place to tell their experiences without being ridiculed. You're doing a great job. Feel free to share our stories if you want. Sorry if this is so long. Hope everything goes well for you, and stay safe, Joe and Cindy. It wasn't too long, and it's easy to read and well written, and more importantly, thanks for coming out and being honest with everybody and brave. That's what we need. People like you are what makes this channel and community what it is, right? The roar thing. I haven't experienced the roar. Many people have. I don't think I want to. That would probably scare the absolute shit out of me, because I'm by myself about 99.9% of the time. The roar. I guess I must have coughed to say, hey, get out of here. It didn't work. Coughed again. Hey, you better get out of here. I'm going to scare the shit out of you. Then you didn't leave and they let you have it. Right? It'd be interesting to see. I'm not sure if we've had anybody physically see one of these beings open its mouth and let that roar rip. Have we? That'd be interesting to hear of that one. We've heard a lot of people heard the growls, seeing it, and it's growling, seeing it, hearing gibberish talk. I don't think we've actually had somebody say they looked at it from 50 yards away and watched it go whoop, or roar. Have we? It'd be interesting. It's an interesting thing to think about, maybe, possibly. I'd like to know if somebody's seen the roar come out of something described as 8 to 10 feet tall, 800 pounds, covered in hair, looking like a man. That'd be interesting, right? Anyway, moving along. So many voices. I'm finding a lot of messages in this old phone that hadn't been read yet. This is a good thing. Missouri River Sabe. Hi Steve, I enjoy your channel. I watch you every morning drinking my mean bean before I go to work or off into the woods to go hiking or kayaking. You're doing a great service to everyone and helping the truth be brought to light. I'll try to keep this email short, as time is precious. On to my story. Thanks for the kind words, man. I live in Missouri, St. Louis area, where the mighty Missouri and Mississippi rivers meet. I don't want to give much details beyond this, as I don't want the black choppers or MIBs or whatever alphabetic agency showing up. I hike an area that has a Sasquatch, or maybe more than one living there. When I first became aware of him, was on a short hike about a mile to the river's edge. The sixth sense kicked in, and a voice in my head, not my own, said to turn around and leave. So I did just that. I guess it put the thought into my head and showed me his face. I clearly saw him for just an instant telling me to leave the area. See, that's frickin' creepy. All the places I've been, I haven't had that happen, and I don't know how I'd react if that happened, where I go. I hike here often, and in the past hunted the area, and as I made my way back to my truck, I found myself angry and began talking to him, telling him I'd come here often and I'll be back, so get used to it. A few days later, I returned and was testing out my new backpack with a 30-pound load out. As I hiked into the middle to where there was a power line clearing with just tall grass, something started making a weird growling sound, very loud, and close to me. My first thought was someone's dog, but then it hit me it's not a dog. It growled at me again, even though I saw nothing. I knew who it was. This Sasquatch was trying to intimidate me. I said, I'm hiking through here and I'm not leaving. I have an apple. I was going to eat it, but you can have it. Just leave me be. I took out my pack, retrieved my apple, and set it on the edge of the muddy trail and said, here you go. Put my backpack on and continued on my way. About an hour later, I came back to the same spot. My apple was gone. A few weeks later, I was on Facebook, and someone posted a pic of a twisted teepee-like structure they stumbled upon while hiking the same area. The woman stood inside of it, and then had her picture taken. This thing was rather large and looked like the structures that many others have posted pictures of on various Bigfoot sites. I've yet to see the Sasquatch face to face. I'm not sure I want to, but it now knows me, and I know when he is close to me, and I hike there often, but I now bring him various fruits. He doesn't bother me now, but I did ask how he managed to get to this rather heavily traveled and populated area, and he showed me in my mind's eye. He followed the Missouri River from way up north and showed me his home, where he came from, an area I have yet to pinpoint a map. I won't say we're friends, but at least we are not enemies. Excuse me. If I ever meet this Sasquatch face to face, I'll at least have a peace offering for him. Careful what you ask for, man. Feeding these unknown beings. Thanks again for all you do with your channel. At least I can tell my story here without being looked at like I'm crazy. I told my girlfriend and she thinks I'm nuts. Keep fighting for the truth, Steve, and don't give a damn what anyone thinks. I know what I know. This is my first encounter with these creatures. Just shocked there is one so close to a heavily populated area. Sincerely, Joseph Biondo. Biondo? Hope I didn't kill your last name, Joseph. Thanks for sending it in, man. Keep us posted. Again, be careful what you wish for, man, when throwing down plates of food for these people, these beings. Here's another one, no title. My name is Doug Willard, and yes, you can use my name. I, like you, am too old for BS. I'm a subject matter expert for the Air Force and lived in Colorado until a year and a half ago. I've spent 50 years hunting all over North America and Canada. Unfortunately, I ran across sign of these things in Colorado while predator hunting. At that point, I contacted the BF blah blah O, as I had no one to reach out to. I told my story and where an investigator said, yes, they are in that area. Isn't that funny? Sorry, I'll bite my lip. I went back and started looking in the area and actually spent the night in there. By the way, someone I met at the Department of Defense actually seen a Sasquatch face-to-face at 30 yards while on horseback. She was in the Cripple Creek area of Teller County. I made a road trip to a town hall held in Estee Park, Colorado, hosted by the BF blank blank, and Mr. Money Scammer was there via Skype. Long story short, some people had actually seen them near me, and I had my chance to speak. I brought up the Melba Ketchum DNA study, and that's when Money Scammer and myself started some back and forth. You could tell they did not like me bringing that up. And Money Scammer did not have any good things to say about Miss Ketchum. Oh, that's kind of funny, eh? That little pork chop was whining his ass off about me saying things about him. Funny how it goes around in a circle, right? Pussy. Later, his own blah blah FO guys tell me they do carry guns in the woods even though Money Scammer frowns on it. Please keep up the good work, getting to the truth, because it's time to end this. Alright, man. Thanks for the email, Doug. Stay safe out there, man. You probably learned now there's no organization on the planet qualified that we need to report to or hear from. It's all about the people now, right? It's all about every single one of you. Hey Steve, I'm an ex-combat vet, served 5 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, been wounded twice. You are a badass. When I came home back in 2011, I was stationed at Fort Leavenworth one night in January 2012. Was on guard detail at a medium-sized perimeter station, concrete walls 2 feet thick, and a solid steel blast door a foot thick just about a half a mile from the Missouri River. Missouri River again. I think I read this a long time ago, but there's probably 100,000 new people here since I read this. So I'm going to keep going. My comrade, stepped out to smoke. This is around midnight in a snowstorm. He started banging on the door within a minute of being outside. I opened the door and what the F? He just went out there. He's like, there's something out here and it's not a man. And it's not any animal he's ever heard. It's screaming at him, but he couldn't see it. So I stepped out with him. And we could hear something very big just into the woods about 100 feet away. Then we heard a scream, roar, what the F ever. We both went back inside and locked the door. Within minutes, the thing started banging on the door with such force. Took me back to combat readiness in a flash. We looked at each other and the monitors in the station, and we could see only the top of its head. Long story short, we finally opened the door after it took off and found dents in the solid metal door, mind you. Yeah, it still freaks me out. And footprints in the snow 21 inches long that led over the perimeter fence, which is 15 feet high, with razor wire, and the prints were headed towards the river. I'm a very rational person, don't take shit, keep to myself, but had to share this. Never told anyone except my comrade who was on duty with me that night. It changed both of us to this day. Thanks for all you do, brother. Keep posting this stuff. We need to know what the F we're dealing with. You can use my name, my first name, Michael. Thanks again for a release. With no shame that night. Will always be with me, just like being wounded has. Okay, man. I read this before. And that was a while back. So, if you've learned anything since then, I'm quite sure you're probably still here. If you would, email us back again and see if you've had anything, if you've gone any further with your knowledge since then. If you've heard from any more of your comrades, possibly co-workers, whatever. We want to hear about it, alright, man? If you learned anything else, alright? Or maybe if somebody's approached you and told you to shut the F up. Who knows, right? We want to hear about that too. Appreciate you, man. I hope you're all safe and healthy out there somewhere. Hi, my name is Roger. I'm in my mid-40s. I had an incident as a little kid that has never left me. I still look over my shoulder and go slow, taking in everything around me before I move forward when I'm in the woods or fishing at a lake. Me too. I love the forests and wooded areas, especially where there is a mountain stream running through them. I spent most of my life hunting and fishing. My dad tells me I caught my first bluefish at 6 months old, haha, up the coast of Maryland. My mother always told me I come out with a rifle in one hand and a fishing pole in the other. There's literally nothing better than that experience of being at peace with nature. I'm telling you this so you can understand why I'm about to tell you what I'm about to tell you isn't natural in any way I can understand. Granted, I was young, under 10, but I can still remember that paralyzing fear. That feeling has never left me. Anyways, I'll get into it. I was living in Maine at the time, around Lisbon Center. We had a post office and a corner store for our town. No gas station, or actual grocery store. It was literally a one-horse town. We lived at the dead end of a road that emptied into the great forests of Maine. Just for some perspective, my backyard started with giant pine trees that as a child seemed to reach into the sky. I remember being up in those trees looking down at my brother on the ground. He looked like a little ant from up there. I spent most of my childhood hunting those forests and fishing those streams and rivers. It was about a year before I moved to Michigan that it happened. I was walking with my cousin down a well-made trail, probably 5 or 6 feet wide, about a half mile from my house. Our heads were mostly down and glancing at each other as we quietly talked and walked along. For some reason, we both froze in mid-step and couldn't move. I could barely raise my head to look mostly forward. I heard no sound, but for some reason we both froze. I remember the feeling because it scares the hell out of me even thinking about it. Something I'll never forget. My body was paralyzed in place except being able to slightly raise my head. I was struck with the fear of death into my whole body, and I don't know why. I never seen his face. It was too close to us. We couldn't see its face. My eyes looked forward, and it was like a foot in front of me. If I wasn't paralyzed, I could have punched it. It was that close. It didn't make any sound. It didn't even move. But for some unknown reason, I couldn't move, and the fear I have never felt before or since was in me. I seen the two human-like arms going down its side, the reddish long flowing hair that slightly moved in the almost still wind. That moment has been etched in my mind, and I've never been able to let it go. Then it was as if the paralysis started lifting. I could feel my head turning to my cousin and his to me, but it was like watching a blurry moving picture. The image I saw looking at him was distorted. I could only imagine mine was to him. It was like our heads were stretched and mouths open too far to be real. We started turning and ran as fast as we could till we got back to the house. Never seen his face. It was too close to me and I couldn't look up. I've never doubted myself as to what I saw. I knew and still know. Nothing will ever change that. I tried to tell my story of what happened when I was young, but the few that believed me said I probably saw a bear. And it wasn't a bear. I was laughed at and ridiculed as a kid. My cousin said he never remembers being in the woods with me, but I told them he was with me. He won't admit what happened, but I will. Whatever this creature was, it had the power to emit overwhelming fear to the point of paralysis. It never even did anything that would make you think it was aggressive. It did nothing scary. To this day, I've never felt anything like it. I've been on the ground 30 yards from black bear that wasn't sure what it wanted to do. I was scared, but not that kind of fear. I know what I saw and what happened, and nobody will ever tell me any different. I've always had this feeling that if I had been alone that day, as I had a few times in the past on that same trail, I wouldn't be alive. I don't know why I've always felt that way. It was an instinct in my gut. In hindsight, now hearing all of the missing children and clothes found in the wrong places, I feel if I'd been alone that day, my name would be among those. I quit telling my story over 30 years ago. Nobody believed me, but that paralyzed fear and that image of seeing that hairy beast with arms only a few inches from my face has never left me. The stories I hear you talk about with the missing children makes me wonder if that almost happened to me. I hope this helps somebody. Helps people to understand what may have happened to their missing child. You've given me the strength to speak out. Thank you, Roger. Roger? You found your people, man. You found your people. You found your place. And there is, by the looks of the views on this channel, there's millions of us, so it's okay, man. You're safe now. Let it rip. And if you learned anything since then, email me back. And I think if any of you have decided to volunteer yourself up to make a map of the pressure changing, the distorted sights, the sound stopping, this might be a one to jot down for the map, right? Sure makes you think that there is another plane, parallel life plane existing alongside of us, above us, wherever it is, right? Something really, really weird's going on. And it directly relates to this topic of these hairy, human-like beings. And there's no way out of it. The pattern's there. It's a strong one. It's global. It's been mentioned tens of thousands of times. Right? Maybe not tens of thousands here, but definitely over 1,000 times here, I'd imagine. Alright? I wonder how many frickin' emails I've read. You imagine how many people have shared here since I started doing this? It's amazing. It's amazing, and it also can make me a little pissed at the previous people who were collecting evidence and testimonies on this topic and kept all this shit away from the public so that the people that experienced it could keep feeling crazy and alienated, right? Filthy, ruthless bastards. What a bunch of idiots. But, bite my lip, those people are gone. Kicked to the curb, where they should be kicked to now. There's nothing worse than somebody trying to change somebody's truth. Hide somebody's truth intentionally. Ridicule somebody so they keep their mouth shut about their truth. Those people need a frickin'... Alright, bite my lip. Hi Steve, hope this is the right email to send you my story of mine and my best friend's encounter with one of these beings. Bingo, you nailed it. Excuse me. First off, my buddy and I became close in the Marine Corps. We've been deployed twice together, and have been into some serious shit together. Nothing that we have been through in Iraq has ever been close to what happened to us elk hunting that day. Wow. My buddy's from the South, and during our years in the service, they used to go on and on about hunting stories from our childhood. Besides the occasional white-tailed buck, he had never shot any big game, so I promised to take him elk hunting. Well, the opportunity came, and I took him into a very remote location in southeast Idaho. It's very rough country and remote, so you either hike in or take a pack string in. We took our trusty steeds in. On the first day, we rode about 12 miles in and made camp. The first day / night was kind of unnerving, and the two horses and mules were acting very on edge, and I just chalked it up, and the first day jitters. We decided in the morning we would ride over the next ridge that overlooks a good drainage that should give us good shots if the elk are out feeding. The ridge we rode to was about another 3 miles away from camp. We hunted all morning, didn't see anything, and ate lunch, and the whole time we felt as if we were being watched. My buddy kept saying that he came out here to relax, and instead he can't help but feel like shit's about to go down. I'd play off his comments like he wasn't used to the backcountry, even though I knew something didn't feel right. Getting close to dusk, we headed back for camp. As we headed for camp, I noticed how quiet the forest became. Our horses got really spooked and snorty, and I could smell this nasty, musty piss smell. For a split second, I thought, perfect, we found some elk. Smelled nothing like elk. And then, almost like a fire hydrant, this god-awful scream erupted. Our horses both reared up and damn near came over backwards. My buddy and I both fell off, and there our horses go, thundering off through the timber toward camp. Well, at least they went towards camp. So there my buddy and I are, standing in the middle of our horse trail, scared shitless. I had my odd 6 slung across my back. Whoa, that's lucky. So when I got dumped, my rifle came with me, and my buddy has his semi-auto 10mm. It was damn near dark, and we didn't know really what to do. Here are 2 seasoned combat vets that are so frightened they don't dare venture into the darkness back to camp. So we did what we have done before. When we were cut off, we sat on the ground back to back, arms ready to fight our way out. We sat there in the middle of the trail, back to back the whole night. During the night, we heard various whoops and hollers, mixed with strange vocals anywhere from 100 to 75 yards away. Way too damn close, and that's all I know. We heard towards camp some loud noises, and all I could think is whatever this is has killed our horses. I wasn't too concerned about the mule. She is nasty in Maine and would probably kill a wolf pack if given the chance. Finally, after one of the most miserable nights, daylight finally came, and we got the hell back to camp. What we found was the mule still tied up, but the horses were nowhere to be found, but the hoof tracks were headed in the right direction for the trailer. We packed camp up, and on the mule, then walked the 12 miles out. When we got back to the trailer, there were our horses standing there next to the trailer, not a scuff on them, and all our gear in place. Luck-y. It is amazing to me at camp, 3 miles from these bastards, our horses knew they were there. That was one crazy 48 hours. And I have to say, I'm glad my brother was there by my side. We fought for each other before, and we were both ready to do it again that night. I hope we get some truth about these things. It would do them and us justice. Thank you so much for what you do. Wow. Thanks for that email, man. And there you go, you guys. Elk. Another common factor near elk. Sucks when the horses take off, especially when you're ways away. Like when we were in guide camp, sometimes you have the horses take off. It's like, oh God, here we go. You got to grab a bridle and start hiking, start tracking them, whichever way they went. And they don't always go back towards the highway, right? And the highway, for us, is a long ways. You'd have to take a whole day plus to hike out to the highway and stay overnight and hike all the way, and then, ride one bareback back, leading the other ones. But anyway, one time I said the same thing, and not the same thing, but just when you said that, it reminded me of, I had a hunter one time. Long story short, he's shooting at an elk, blah, blah, blah. Everything went down fast. The horses, our saddle horses took off. And I had my shotgun in the scabbard. Horse took off. I'm like, oh, great. And we got to go up and over the mountain, down the valley, around the corner. And they're headed towards camp, but when they get down to a T in the valley, they go left or right. Right to camp, left to somewhere remote. And they hung a right and went to camp, thank God. But on the way, about a mile into it, there's my shotgun straight up and down in the mud, barrel down. I guess they're just running and bucking and kicking and being idiots, and that shotgun actually flew out of my rifle scabbard in the air and landed in the trail. Lucky find, right? Of all the bush, the buckbrush and the crap that those horses would have ran over. But anyway, it's not about me and my story, about you. That must have been... It's funny when I hear of anybody staying on a trail at nighttime or camping on a trail. It just makes me go, ooh. It's one of the worst things you can do, but I'd imagine, you guys are combat veterans, you know what to do. But I would have moved off the trail a little bit anyway, right? Especially around there, you got grizzly bears, right? It's like, if you're going to camp on a game trail anywhere on the planet, you're basically camping on a game highway, right in the middle of the highway, right on the yellow line. We don't do that in the woods. But under those circumstances, I don't blame you for one bit. Hunker down and get ready, right? Thanks for that email, man. Appreciate you. Dear Mr. Isdall, it's the title of this. I recently discovered your site on Facebook. I don't put any of this on Facebook. Actually, don't put much on Facebook. And have begun looking at your videos. I'm writing to you to tell you how much I appreciate your voice on the subject of Bigfoot/Sasquatch. I had an up-close encounter myself at age 7. I estimate that the creature was about 75 feet directly in front of me. There were 4 of us, my mom, grandma, and brother, and myself. It charged us from the wood line and was roaring the whole time. It's the only thing that I can say that ever truly terrified me in my life, and I'm 52 now. And this is in Florida, by the way, in the 70s. I grew up on a farm and lived in an area that was either farmland or woods. I thought I knew all the animals out there until that day of my encounter. However, I can't really call this creature an animal because it had human-like facial features and hands and feet. Just on a massive scale that would have made Arnold Schwarzenegger look small. It was reddish brown in color and approximately 8 feet in height and about 600 plus pounds. You know what you've seen can't be explained and yet can't be more real. And I'm a knower, like you. So I'm just here to sincerely thank you for coming to the front, defending those that are mistreated by so many ugly people out there. Fortunately, I'm very strong-willed, redhead, and speak what I feel to be real. Truth, however brutal it might be, that's what you get from me. I see that character trait in you and appreciate it. Oh, look at that. There's a horse face for the first time in the window. Beautiful. Wondering what the hell's going on. Sorry. Thanks sincerely for your voice and experience, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, appreciate you big time. Thank you for sharing that. You're one of us. You're one of our people in the club. Club member. It's funny, as I'm reading these and something big and black peeks around the corner for the first time ever. Right? And there's my mare. Wondering where I am. Why am I hearing his voice here? This isn't normal. That's pretty cool. I might have to shift the fence over a little bit just so they can stick their heads right in the door. Alright, I'll switch you around. Maybe because near. And the gelding's staring at me like intently thinking, what the hell's going on? It's kind of cool. My family. Okay, here we go. Hi Steve, I found myself stumbling on your channel during my research. I'm in my 30s, and I had a series of highly unusual events. I've made fun of the Bigfoot subject for a long, even though I believed in plenty of paranormal phenomenons. I started taking notes on connections between UAPs and Sasquatch. I've listened to your channel with an open mind. I read books from David Paralysis as well. Then my puzzle pieces connected. Thought I'd share 3 different stories, see if others are interested or share similar stories after. It all started, as far as these stories are concerned, in 2005. We were headed back to an area right next to Homestead Air Reserve Base. The driver of the vehicle was falling asleep. It was very late and we'd been in the car all day, so he pulls over so he can nap, right? Me and another friend started walking around the pullout after being told we were being too loud for him to sleep. We were out for probably an hour. We were out for probably an hour or so before we started getting a horrible feeling. I don't recall any sounds, which is weird for the Everglades. Then we heard what sounded like a person wading through the water. The first thing I said was that person was crazy walking around the swamp at all, let alone at night with no torch. Excuse me. He was getting closer, and we both run to the car, once again disturbing the driver, LOL. It felt like forever until the sun came up. A few weeks later, we were walking through an abandoned building by the airbase. A big group of about 6. 2 orbs appeared out of nowhere right in front of us. One was a beautiful blue, and the other green, about the size of a small basketball. I wasn't thinking and gave chase. Followed it down the hallway about 10 meters. It turned the corner as the light faded away. A month after that, in the same building, I was walking to the store with a friend. Decided to go through the same building. I started paying attention to detail after the orbs event. Anyways, my friend said she felt bad right before we entered the building. She stopped dead in her tracks. Then after a few seconds, she passes out. I catch her and lay her down. The rest of my friends split up. 2 carry on to the store for water. Another 2 circle back to the Job Corps Center for a pillow. It's just me and my passed out friend now. I felt like I was being watched now, so I started studying the area. I looked up towards the 2nd floor landing area and realized it was blurry. I wiped my eyes and refocused on the area. It looked like a mirage from the floor to ceiling, but just at that spot. I looked intensely, hoping it would just go back to normal. As I'm trying not to shit myself, then about 8 feet off the ground, 2 red eyes opened. I say eyes because I felt it was watching me or her. It felt like forever. I was frozen, just looking back. Then out of the blue, its red eyes turned and disappeared. Then the mirage faded away. All my friends got back just then, and she woke up feeling fine. Needless to say, no one believed me. I wouldn't have. If that was a Sasquatch, that means these beings are not restricted to deep woods. Leaves the question of why did they take interest in me after the pit stop in the Everglades? Are they observing military bases? What's the orb and UFO connection? My name's Frank. If you have questions, you have my email. Feel free to share. Don't have YouTube or anything, just want to answer my personal questions. Maybe I'll email other stories I have. This is long enough. Lead the way, Steve. Voices need to be heard. It's up to the people now. Needless to say, it's not a silly subject anymore. It's grounded in fact and all being concealed. That much is clear. Yeah, it's very clear. It's not being concealed with us anymore, that's for sure. It's creepy, man. Now you guys think? I mean, you gotta think about it. The amount of people that see these red eyes, it's a little overwhelming, don't you think? Don't you think? Imagine there's a handful of whack jobs out there that think that I can make people make this shit up and email it to me. Thanks for the email, man. Keep us posted. Share away. If you learned some more shit, you share it here, alright? Share it. Share it with somebody. If not here. Elmendorf Air Force Base sighting. Hello, Steve. In 1978, when my dad was stationed at Elmendorf Air Force Base, Alaska. Alaska again. There's a guy on guard duty. His job was to check the perimeter of the flight line there on base, and as he was doing his duties, he saw a large, hairy person. He called it that name. He called it that. Came out of the darkness from one of the buildings and ran across the flight line towards the perimeter of the fence, which was about 7 feet tall, with concertina wire on top of it. And he yelled at him to tell him to halt, and it took one jump, went over the fence, cleared the concertina wire, landed on the other side, and took off into the forest. That sighting shook him up so bad that he went immediately and reported to his supervisor. I think he was on the news also. I'm not 100% sure. My dad was on duty that night and heard about it, and I heard it from him also. But what I'm wondering is, if anybody that is listening to this encounter, if they were possibly in Alaska at the time and heard about this, please write in. Tell us what you know about this sighting. You can share my name, Kenneth Brinkerhoff. Hey Kenneth, thanks for that heads up, man. Another one from Alaska, another one near a military base, right? Military bases sure get a lot of action and attention, and I'm quite certain if there's a handful of people, a bunch that knows of this particular sighting, one of them's here listening without a doubt. So, you can, if you are, and you want to reply to this man, you can either do it in the comment section below or email it to me, and then we'll get that shared out with the whole gang here, alright? Alaska again. Alaska's a crazy place, man. Alaska is a wild place. Very wild. You need about 50 lifetimes just to see everything up there. With the islands, the ocean, the mountains. It's a crazy place. Tons of wildlife. Lots of mystery. Lots of sightings, right? Okay, we got another one. This is titled More Proof. Not that we need much more proof, that's for sure. Here we go. Hi Steve, it's Jack from Columbia County, upstate New York. He previously read my story with my 3 experiences. This past weekend I was helping my friend cutting up a big old pine that landed across his quad road. Snow was on the ground, and I noticed footprints that was going in the same track line. I've taken some pictures and also helped him near his pond and found large prints as well. These prints are about 2 to 3 miles away as the crow flies from where I had my experiences. I sent photos in this email. You and your family are welcome by me anytime. Appreciate you, man. That's very kind. That is a sunken in footprint with the boot beside it. Excuse me, that's a lot of pressure. Straight line tracks. There you go. The classic Sasquatch prints and a small one too, huh? Alright. Shared. Thanks for that share, man. Appreciate you. Be safe out there. Right? You're living side by side with these beings 100% for certain. Anyway. Here we go. Got to get my butt moving. Got some insulating to do. Got some walls to do here. I got so much shit to do. But I'll be back.
Fuck yeah, it's a bastard. That one's rock pans a bit. He's still fucking looking mostly.
Well, he's looking right up here at you.
I'm getting unbelievable footage of this thing.
Is it working well through the spot?
It can't get better.